It's
Charlie,
quite
but a little different.
It's quite similar in the fact that I still have the 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 ultimately leading to a +1 championship around the time that the championship is played now. Now for me, I think the whole bowl system is what needs to be kind of fixed. You've got 35 bowls, that's 70 teams out of 120 making some sort of postseason play. So I would up the ante at least to 7 wins to get into a bowl game, maybe 8. You'll never get the bowl games to go away, but if you could trim it to like 20 or 24, I think that would be good. Then you'd have at the most maybe 50 teams playing for some sort of postseason, and I think it gives we've seen how many 6-6 coaches get canned already. That gives you some sort of barometer to measure yourself. A bowl, you can be average right now and go to a bowl game. And I don't necessarily sit well with that. So to get to my playoff plan, it's modeled off of the Sports Illustrated's senior college football writer, Stuart Mandel, who has this idea of, similar to Charlie's, where you take the top 10 BCS teams, eliminate the AQs, which is something I stand behind, especially given the fact that Boise State is going to be in the Big East. Yeah. And that he would add a 5th BCS bowl right now, probably the Cotton Bowl, and he says that that's probably going to happen anyway on this next go-around when they re-up. And then he said one of the ways that you could eliminate the AQs and still have them be okay with it is pay out to all 11 conferences. That way the Sun Belt, even if they don't send a team, or I don't think they've ever sent a team to the BCS, they're still going to get $500,000 from what ends up happening with a game between LSU and Oregon.
This is one thing I don't like about with the bowl payouts is why let's say Houston would have beat Southern Mississippi and gone to a BCS game. Why does Houston get the same amount that the team that went 2-10 get? I mean, I think I'm okay with everyone else in the conference getting a chunk of it. That's fine. But I think it should be more like you split it in half, and the team that goes gets to keep half of it because they earned it,
and the other half
is split among everybody else. Then
same way with college basketball, with Oakland getting into the tournament, and then everybody else gets a piece of the pie, even if you are the Centenaries of the world or the Western Illinois.
Yeah, and I think part of that is that's the way it's got to be. I mean, the NCAA makes so much money off that tournament; it's unreal. And that funds every other, that funds the Division III rowing championships, and so I guess that's kind of where...
It's like 90+% of their entire gross through the year.
And I can't even remember but it's billions each year, so...
Just the TV contract is outrageous.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Where else was I? 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, so I kind of played it out here before the show, and... I have the Cotton Bowl, because if we stay with the Sugar Bowl being the championship, New Orleans being the championship, they wouldn't host the championship, so you pick 2 other bowl games. I picked the Cotton and the Fiesta Bowl. Cotton Bowl, let's say and you would have, each bowl would get the first pick. The Rose Bowl would be the only bowl that would say, we still want Big Ten, Pac-12, and those are the 2 conferences that stand in front of a +1, ironically enough. But, if the Cotton Bowl takes LSU, they have to take the number 4 team too. So you have LSU Stanford this year as a semi. And then the other 2, let's say the other semifinal is the Fiesta Bowl. They're going to take, next bowl up is going to take Oklahoma State or Alabama, and those 2 teams will play.
Required to take the other one too.
Then the other 3 bowls kind of play out like normal. The Rose Bowl will take the winners of the Pac-12 and Big Ten. Oregon, Wisconsin, that's pretty cut and dried. And then I kind of feel like maybe they should, if you're not in the top 16 of BCS, don't bother talking.
Top what?
If you're not in the top 16 of the BCS rankings, if you're number 22 when you win the ACC,
like if you're West Virginia.
Right, if you're West Virginia, yeah. So Boise State being 7 despite losing, I have them in the Orange Bowl against Michigan, who I think would be picked based on travel factors like we talked about. I mean, that's the reason they're in the Sugar Bowl this year. And I don't have a limit on the conference, number of teams per conference. South Carolina, Arkansas, I have Arkansas in the Sugar Bowl playing Kansas State. That'd be 6 versus 8. Those two teams would draw well to New Orleans. But other than that,
the game on January 9th.
And then the title game, yeah. You'd have...
the winners of the Cotton Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl that year move on.
Yeah.
And
I don't think the Cotton Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl will be hurt too much by, having another game added on the end, because the teams are going to be so good. There's no guarantee you're going to make it. So
it's true.
If you can't be real sure that the LSU Tigers are going to beat Stanford, you got to go watch that game if you want to see them play, and you can't really hold out for the Alabama-LSU showdown the very next week. You're rolling the dice.
You're rolling the dice, though, yeah.
As far as any money being potentially lost wherever with extra games, I think that would be more than made up with the added television.
Yeah.
With the contracts or the added games added on.
I think so too. I think there's more
money to be made in this, which makes this sound like it should happen.
Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to in pretty much everything on this earth, especially in sports, is money.
Well, yeah, and TV, a system like this is built for TV. Admittedly, it's not built for the fans, because the travel is a lot.
But you look at something like the Super Bowl. How many true fans go to that? That's corporate up the butt.
Yeah.
As far as, are they great crowds? No, when's the last Super Bowl crowd where like, my God,
boy, it's loud.
Green Bay, their fans were going nuts. You never see that.
Yeah, well, you always hear about, like, last year, Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Oh, a lot of fans down there. Well, yeah, there are, but...
How many of them are actually watching the game?
And are they impacting the game? No, it's a neutral... They're playing in Dallas for crying out loud.
You could have put any two teams in there.
You could have.
It's the Super Bowl. It's the event. It doesn't matter who's in. You have two teams at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. They're on a roll. They've won the games to get there. So that obviously you're both playing pretty good at the time. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it a compelling matchup.
And there will be a corporate effect, with any setup like this, just like there is probably with the national championship now.
Just look at the sponsorships of the bowl games.
Right.
I mean, my God.
If you look at the 50, who's sitting at the 50-yard line at the Super Bowl, I bet none of them are wearing anything related to a certain team. No. Packers, Steelers last year. At the 50-yard line of a bowl game, you're going to see one team's regalia, and probably on the other side you'll see the other teams. I mean, I think the crowds, especially warm weather locales, I mean, we're not playing these championship games in Detroit, so it should be fun.
Which is good.
Which is good. Yeah, they're going to play at the Metrodome.
Yeah. Get that new stadium. You've seen these guys' 2 picks. I'll come up with mine, completely different, completely radical, never going to happen. Good. But I think it would give everybody a chance at least to say, hey, we have a chance at the beginning of the year to get into the playoff and see what happens. So we'll get to that coming up next on the Sports Lounge. Now we're back with my system. We're gonna go 16 teams here. We're gonna fill in that month in between the end of the regular season and then the final bowl games. We're gonna fill that up with some college football games here that are meaningful, and winner moves on, loser's season is over. You could, in my system, maybe make the final 4 or the final 8 teams. Have those at sites of the bowl games. I'm not sure I'm keeping the bowl games, the Orange Bowl, the Rose Bowl. I'm not sure I'm keeping those names, which would probably piss a lot of people off.
I think that's where your idea gets shot right away.
If you want,
you're already behind the 8 ball now.
Like if you want to make, once you get it past the first weekend, okay, this is the Fiesta, this is the Rose, the Cotton, the whatever. Yeah. I mean, you could do that. I mean, I think it's lost some of its tradition. The Rose Bowl we're the greatest of all time, but when you have teams like TCU in there, and you have a Texas in there, like the tradition, it's still there, but it's pretty much gone. It's not what it used to be at this point.
Yeah, I was looking into Rose Bowls since the BCS took over. We've had USC, Texas in 07, that championship game. The year before that,
you had Nebraska, Miami.
You had Texas, Michigan the year before the USC.
Oklahoma, Washington State.
I was going to go there.
There's 2 classic rivals.
Right. So
the last year Washington State was ever really good.
Yeah. And you can guarantee that the next time the Pac-12 or the Big Ten have a team in the title game, you're going to have Auburn going to the Rose Bowl or something weird like
Alabama
that.
Or somebody.
So very interesting.
Yeah. So they obviously want their teams and their conferences, but this is the way it's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I have it's a 16-team playoff. There are 11 automatic spots, one for each conference. If you win your conference, whether it be regular season, conference title, however you figure out who's your conference champ, they are automatically in this playoff. So it gives every team a chance to get in it, just like college basketball. You have a chance at the beginning of the year to win your conference, and you're in this tournament.
I'll back your plan right away and say that boring MAC Friday night championship.
That'll mean a whole hell of a lot.
That'll mean
mean whoever loses to the 2-seed Alabama. But that'll mean a whole hell of a lot.
Right.
I want to make one thing known, though. I watched much more of the MAC game than the Pac-12 title.
I just couldn't.
It was an entertaining game.
It turned out to be, yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't in the first half at times.
I just couldn't. I don't know what it was, but at Ford Field, I just could not watch that game. Like, Ohio did no.
They weren't wearing the black jerseys.
And
See what happens?
As the Nebraska fan that Frank Solich used to coach, I just knew. I'd seen it before. Comes in with a good game plan. They make adjustments. Ohio did not, and they lost.
Boom. So obviously you have a game like that, which I'm not going to watch, and that's a very big game as far as getting into the tournament. Now it's whoever gets to go back to Ford Field to play in the BS Bowl on January 6th. So, obviously, if this would have been a playoff situation, I probably would have paid more attention to it. So, that's one positive. Extra games, you want regular season games to mean something. Well, this is going to mean a whole hell of a lot more this time.
Mm-hmm. Ours were pretty dry. You should say what your matchups for each are.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
So first off, you have 11 spots dedicated to all your conference winners. From then, you have 4 auto bids, or not auto bids, but at-large bids that guys can vie for. And I'll go through my list here.
And do you stick on the at-large? Do you stick strictly to the rankings?
Yep.
It's the first 5 on that list, and whoever's 9th.
Basically, if you want to keep your BCS computers, not keep it up to the, not make common sense and say, well, this team is better than this team, and just go, well, they played this team and go by the numbers, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let's just keep it out of the common sense and go by numbers. You go, my at-larges would be number 2 Alabama, number 4 Stanford, number 6 Arkansas, number 7 Boise, and number 8 Kansas State. So obviously that Iowa State game came down to the end there. That would have been a big game for Kansas State to know, hey, if we win this, we're in the conversation.
Yep.
And that Oklahoma State game, Oklahoma State probably knew they were in, but Oklahoma's like, well, if we don't win this game, we're not in the playoff.
The Mountain West Championship, they have no championship game.
No.
Boise State, TCU in the middle of the year, that means a whole lot more. But in your scenario, both teams get in.
And everybody would hype that matchup knowing these are obviously the 2 best teams.
Yep.
And the winner of this likely going to get the automatic bid. The loser, maybe not.
Yeah. And like your scenario, the Conference USA game, everybody was watching that because Houston was already 12-0. But Southern Miss gets their way into the tournament because they beat Houston. Houston's out.
Yeah, Houston would have been in, but now they're out. They're not even at an at-large spot. Going through my 11.
Then you're just seeding them by BCS rankings then?
Pretty much. If we want to keep this BCS garbage and the rankings, go ahead. You got LSU, obviously SEC champ, Oklahoma State from the Big 12, Oregon from the Pac-12, Wisconsin the Big 10, Clemson the ACC, TCU from the Mountain West, Southern Miss from Conference USA, West Virginia from the Big East, and you have from the Sun Belt, Arkansas State.
Surprisingly, had a pretty good year. I mean, usually the Sun Belt champs had 7-5. Yeah. They were 10-2. With one, I think their 2 losses were to Virginia Tech, and I think Illinois or some other BCS team that's in a bowl game.
So a week before South Dakota State.
That's right.
Yeah. Then at the MAC, you have Northern Illinois, and then Louisiana Tech, the worst team BCS-wise, the WAC champion, I would say. The WAC, probably the worst conference at the FBS level.
Yeah, now that they've been gutted.